Welcome to this webinar on end-of-year fundraising, featuring ideas you still have time to implement. It is the first in a series of Shelter Success Simplified webinars supported by Petco Foundation and presented by Humane Network. I'm Mark Robison, Senior Consultant with Humane Network and co-host of the Shelter Success Simplified podcast. Our two presenters today are Bonney Brown and Diane Blankenburg, founders of Humane Network. Humane Network is a nonprofit consulting organization that can help your organization with everything from animal behavior training and fundraising to operations and strategic planning. We have done consultations, training, assessments, and executive recruitment for organizations across the country, including large open admission shelters, spay-neuter clinics, rescue groups, and both nonprofit and governmental agencies. You can check out Bonney and Diane's bios on the Humane Network website and see the rest of our team there too. One bit of housekeeping: you can ask questions at any time in the chat window at the bottom of the Zoom window. Just be sure to send it to everyone. We'll get to them at the end of the main presentation. We know your time and attention are valuable, so let's get this presentation started. Now I'll turn things over to Bonney Brown.
Thanks so much, Mark. Welcome, everyone. It's great to be with you here today virtually, and thanks so much for taking the time to join us for this webinar. In the next 30 minutes, my colleague Diane Blankenburg and I are going to share 4 different topic areas with you. First, we're going to talk about opportunities for end-of-year fundraising. Then we're going to talk about what you should be communicating with your donors about. And we're going to talk about some simple things that will enhance your fundraising success in this final segment of the year. And lastly, we'll share some specific ideas for simple, effective fundraising themes and strategies that you can use over the next 7 weeks. As Mark mentioned, we want to thank the Petco Foundation that made this webinar possible. And we hope that you'll take a moment to check out Petco Foundation's National Lost and Found database for pets that they're creating. The link for it is right here on the slide. And now I'm going to hand things over to my colleague, Diane.
Well, in spite of the pandemic and all the craziness that's surrounding that, plus on top of that, the holidays that we're approaching, year-end fundraising really isn't any different than fundraising the rest of the time. The fundamentals are basically the same. And in our world, especially the nonprofit world, this quote by Richard Avanzino really sums it up well. You need to do good work, tell people about it, and then ask them to help. Your end-of-year fundraising success is really part of your marketing and development work throughout the year. It should be actually a product of what you've been doing and communicating throughout the year. And as the holidays approach and the new year approaches, it's time to take a look at how we are going to be making that plan for the new year of 2021. How are we going to better create community visibility and increase donor communication through that new year? It's not too late, even if you didn't have a plan for 2020. But what's really important, no matter when you are doing your fundraising and your marketing, is to be sure you're always having a positive, fun messaging approach, which is just going to be way more productive and successful than a negative approach. So in our field, the end of year fundraising is very similar to the retail industry, where they bring in their biggest sales at the end of the year. 31% of annual giving to charitable organization occurs in the last month, which is December. And some nonprofits bring in as much as 50% of the donations for the whole year during that period of time. So it's really important to take advantage of this time, and it's not too late. That's why we're giving you a lot of easy and effective ways you can still implement now and take advantage of this time. So listed here are 2 particularly important dates: Giving Tuesday, which is December 1st for December, and the end of the year, which is December 31st. So these are really significant days to focus on as far as your fundraising. Unfortunately, nearly a third of all organizations do not communicate with donors on these dates. They're not particularly good in our field as far as being relentless with our donations, or excuse me, our communications for donations in general, but especially at this time of year. And so it's important, even if you didn't have it in your plan, to make the plan now to finish out the year, and then you can regroup next year. A lot of our clients have come to us, especially when the pandemic first hit, and said they're really uncomfortable asking. They feel like they're imposing on people in already difficult times with people being sick and all the economic challenges. But this survey was conducted in July that shows that 70% of donors plan to give the same or more this year as they did in 2019. So it's more important than ever for us and nonprofit organizations to take advantage of this and to not be shy about it. We're really giving them an opportunity to do something that makes them feel good. These are people who want to help, and really we need to take advantage of them wanting to help and to help them make it easy.
So thanks, Diane. So what should you be saying to your supporters in this last push for the year? The number one thing that we would suggest is that you provide some good news. There's already enough stress, and people are very aware of all the many challenges that we all face right now. So what you want to do is share with folks some positive news from your organization, an uplifting story about animals saved. That would be just the ticket. Keep in mind that stories really resonate for people. Long before we had the written word, people passed down information from generation to generation in the form of stories. So we humans are kind of hardwired for stories. And as you can see in this quote on the slide from Network for Good, donors tend to give twice as much when they're presented with a story about an affected individual, in our case, an animal, as opposed to the just broader statistics or just general information about the need. So keep that in mind as you're crafting your messages for your donors. You want to share stories, and ideally positive stories that they have made possible through their past generosity. Photos are a powerful element of our work. And there's that old adage about how a picture is worth 1,000 words. So you want to be sure that you're always including photographs. You want to show an animal or an animal with a person. You want to be sure the images are really crisp and clear. And you want to crop the photos so that you can focus people's attention. And lastly, you want to always be sure that the photos are large enough to make an emotional impact, for people to be able to make a connection with the animal, especially with the animal's eyes, or with the bond between the person and the pet if you're showing a photo of people and animals. So as I mentioned, thanking donors is crucially important. I have had many donors tell me that they have not given a second time because they did not feel thanked by the organization. So you want to be sure that your organization is thanking people. And of course, the conventional thank you note with personal touch or thank you card, thanking people who give repeatedly, or generous donors in multiple ways is really important. A thank you phone call, certificate of appreciation, especially for folks who have gone above and beyond, or organizations and businesses in your community that have given to your organization. So we just want to be sure that we're thanking people after they give, but we also want to be sure that we're thanking supporters in our appeals and in our other communication. Our work is only made possible by our donors and supporters. So we want to be sure that we're thanking them and letting them know that their gifts are making the life-saving possible, that their gifts are creating joy and peace for animals, and that they are bringing hope to animals and people who care about them. You want to be sure that people understand that their generous support is making the positive stories that you're sharing possible. And remember that the word you is a powerful way to engage supporters. Again, it's another thing that we all respond to when we hear the word you. It brings us into the communication in a way that it does not if you're just talking about you, yourself, or your organization and the great work that you're doing. So another important point is to tell people how they can help and how it will make a difference. You want to make a specific request for help. You want to explain how their giving is going to make a difference. And this point about making a specific request is really important. People are busy, they have enough things that that are uncertain in life, and so you can make their giving easier and more likely to happen by being very specific in terms of asking for specific amounts of funds. And Diane is going to talk more about that in a moment or two. And I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you, Bonney. So I have a few more simple tips that can help increase your end of year giving. The first one's related to your contacts. Your contacts are really your single most valuable asset, because as long as you have contact information, your supporters and even previous donors, you are going to be able to fundraise. So one of the problems we see with a lot of groups, especially smaller ones, is they really do not have a donor database. I mean, even a simple one. They may have various lists of people that they've come in contact with in different ways, but it's usually in a lot of different places and not necessarily very complete information. So the first thing you can do is gather everything you've got and put it into one place. You don't necessarily have the resources to spend a lot of money on an expensive database. So you can use something as simple as Excel to list all of your contacts. You can use some very inexpensive applications that exist out there, like a Little Green Light. So just make it easy and make it simple, make it affordable. But the important thing is to get all that information into one place. The other thing is to be sure that you are making it part of your culture to collect information. We come in contact with people all the time, and people that already are supportive of the cause or specifically supportive of our organization. Our adopters are a key set of people. They may not be your big donors, but they often will help with various volunteer activities, and they certainly can share the information with other people. Volunteers are often part of your donor database and play a significant role there. Also, your various users of services. So you might have clients in a spay-neuter clinic, or you might have other types of services that are provided in the community where you come in contact with people. So just be sure that you're collecting all the needed information and tracking it in one place so you can easily access it. Another tip is to create a sense of urgency, and you can do that by incorporating these significant dates, significant end of year dates into your strategy. And make sure, even if you don't have a plan for the year, that you make a plan for the end of the year and then incorporate this into the next year. So the sense of urgency can come basically through these dates and deadlines. It also can come through a matching program. So matching programs or matching gifts are extremely appealing to all of the donors, I should say, both the ones that are initially donating and the ones that are doing the matching. You can certainly reach out to some of your key donors or funders and ask them if they're willing to participate in a program like this. Giving can be up to 50% higher with a matching gift challenge. And as a donor, or any of us as a donor, we're going to feel much better about giving if we know that our money is going to be doubled and it's going to go twice as far. And we're not talking here about company gifts. We're talking specifically about a substantial donor or grantor that can help create this kind of matching program. Another tip is to use videos. Bonnie talked a bit earlier about the importance of photos, and certainly quality photos when you're trying to make an emotional connection with donors and supporters. Videos even do that to a greater extent, but obviously they need to be well done videos. They need to be short and to the point and really make that connection quickly. You may say that you don't have that expertise, or you may not have what you think is the right equipment to be able to do this. But again, if you reach out to your supporters and volunteers, you've probably got somebody out there that would be willing to do this and would love to do it. You can help guide the project and help them keep the right focus, but you can reach out and get that extra expertise and support that you need to make these happen. Another tip is founded around the idea that your donors are really built on relationships, and your donations are built on those relationships. So you want to make people feel like they are important to you. And one way to do that is to send out emails that come from a specific person rather than from a company. And as it says here, there's been shown to be 28% increase in emails that get opened if they are sent from an individual. In MailChimp and other software products that you use to send out emails or mass emails can help you customize that so it looks like it's coming from an individual. And this is one of the easiest tips we can give, but also one of the most important, and that's to make sure it's easy to give. There are different ways to make sure it's easy. You want to be sure you're not having to go to a lot of different pages in order to get to the donation piece. You want to be sure it's clear as far as the instructions. There's a couple tips here that are helpful. Be sure you have choices. It helps to give people an idea of what they can give, and often can help them give even more than they would. It also is helpful to have some kind of thermometer or a goal that you're trying to raise, whether it's for something in particular or just in general, and show the progress towards that goal. That might encourage people to come back, even if they have already given, to see what the progress is and maybe give again. So if you're not sure if your website or your various ways of giving is easy, one way to test it is to try it out yourself. Give a small donation, helpful to be able to test it in your own way, but also to give maybe an opportunity to friends or family to test it out for you, and see people that aren't really as engaged in this. They're going to have a more objective view and can give you some really good tips on how to make it easier for them.
Thanks, Diane. So now we're going to talk a bit about what your end of year efforts should look like. What should you be doing for the next 2 months? And definitely want to mention that direct mail is still a really effective strategy for year-end fundraising. And it's especially effective if you can follow up on it with emails to your supporters. And since most people need to see or hear about something at least 7 times before they act, you really want to cover all the bases that you possibly can. So we have a list of things here that are strategies that you would want to try to include in your year-end fundraising efforts. However, if you can't do all of them, still go ahead and do what you can. Even if you can only do one of these things or 2 of them, that's going to be better than not taking advantage of this year-end opportunity when people really are thinking about giving. So another key element is it's really important to try to create a theme and to keep it positive and fun, as Diane had mentioned earlier. There's enough trouble and stress in the world, and you don't want to add to that. So you want to focus on the good things that their donations are making possible at your organization. So the next 8 slides, we're going to share some ideas, specific concepts that you could take and use, or perhaps adapt, or maybe they'll inspire another totally different creative idea for your organization for the next 7 weeks of the year. Giving Tuesday, as Diane mentioned, is a really, really essential date, and it's not too early to start marketing for it now. We have some samples here of various different approaches organizations have taken in order to give you ideas that you might want to use. But also we have a video for you that an organization had already sent out to promote this year's Giving Tuesday to their supporters. And Diane is going to show that to you now. And as you watch it, I hope that you'll keep in mind what you see in it that really impacts you, that makes you want to give and makes you more engaged with the organization as you watch the video. But also think about if there is anything in this video that you would do differently, that you would improve, that might make it even more effective.
This year, while the world was shut down, we had no choice but to keep going. Homeless pets still needed shelter, while pets in our community needed care. So we forged a new path. We switched to a virtual adoption process so that homeless pets could still find new families. We created a new system for our vaccine and microchip clinic to protect the lives of pets in our community. We continued treating homeless pets with medical needs and provided more affordable spay and neuter surgeries to the community. No matter what happened, we were determined to find a way because pets and people still needed our help. Now we need your help. Donate between now and December 1st. And your gift will be matched dollar for dollar, doubling the impact you have on these precious lives. Because no matter what's happening in the world, they are still counting on us.
Really nice video. I think you'll all agree. Lots of good things going on in there. A lot of focus on animals and the good work of the organization, and also a matching gift as well as the deadline of Giving Tuesday. So among all those great things, I think if there was one thing that I would suggest that would be helpful would be to be sure that the name of the organization is visible on the screen really early in the presentation and really readable to viewers. But overall, I think it's a great visual representation of what the organization does, and it really does engage you and make you want to help their great work. So one more thing on Giving Tuesday, we're sharing an image here that comes from Best Friends, and they always do such a great job with their visuals, and they can be great inspiration to you for the type of thing that you want to create. You really can see these animals' eyes, and it really is quite moving and yet festive for the holidays. So Best Friend stuff can be a great inspiration, and I hope that you take a look at it from that perspective. Also, I imagine most of you are familiar with Giving Tuesday, but if not, here is the link that you can check out to learn more about it, and also to sign up as a participant so that people looking in your community would see your organization as geographically near them for Giving Tuesday. Another great concept that we love is Lights of Love. And what this is a donation tribute campaign where people give a relatively small amount of money in memory of or in honor of a pet or a person. And again, this could be done virtually or it could be done outdoors this year. But if you do it right, it can really encourage people to give it to others as a holiday gift. So it can really be quite productive for your organization. And we have more information on this campaign and several of the others. If you want to reach out to us, if any of them really appeal to you, let us know and we'll be happy to try to share additional help. Giving Tree is another great idea that many organizations have done. And it takes many different forms. It could be about in-kind giving, asking for supplies and specific things that you need for the shelter, or it could be about monetary gifts that will support a particular activity or fill a particular need at the organization. And this too could be done virtually or done outdoors. You can sort of take the concept and make it work for you. Another really effective strategy is the 12 saves of Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa, or you could just call it celebrating the top rescues of 2020. You need to decide the best name for your community. The concept, however, is basically the same. It's a series of daily emails recounting the best rescues that occurred during 2020 and thanking donors and asking for donations. And if you do it really well and right, you'll have donors waiting every day to get your email that includes another great story about a rescue that occurred at the shelter that had a happy ending in 2020, and that you're thanking them too for their support that made this great rescue possible. And here are just a few other images from different organizations to help inspire you in what could work well for you. But again, this is a theme that you can wrap your communications with your donors around for part of the month of December. Another great idea is a holiday pet photo contest online. GoGoPhotoContest.com is one platform that's very user-friendly that you can certainly check out. The idea is that you're inviting people to post fun holiday photos of their pets and then to ask their friends to vote. And they vote with a donation of $1 or some modest sum of money. And this can really work quite well. We know a spay-neuter clinic in Ohio that did it that raised nearly $50,000, and a shelter in Florida that raised over $55,000 with a pet photo contest. Another great idea is the Home for the Holidays campaign. This was originally developed as an adoption campaign, and it's a wonderful adoption campaign because nobody wants to see pets in a shelter for the holidays. We want to see them adopted and in loving homes. But you can also have this theme double for you as a fundraising concept, because again, folks are donating to support getting pets into homes for the holidays. So you can definitely take this and make it work for you. There's a link to the site for the original campaign, and you can join that too, which is excellent. But because of the name of the song that everyone's familiar with, Home for the Holidays, you can really use this, and it automatically resonates for people when they hear about it. A thankathon is a fantastic idea. And even if it's not your idea of something you want to do, call all the donors and thank them, it's something you can really engage your board members in helping with, and even volunteers. If you prepare a script, you're just asking people to call past donors and thank them for giving and let them know the good that their gift has accomplished during the past year. So, it's fairly straightforward in that you don't have to ask for more money in the phone call. And this makes it easier for many people to think about making that call. But then you follow up with an email to donors after, and that's where you can make an ask. Or perhaps you can time your thankathon with your direct mail appeal so that people are thanked and then they get the direct mail appeal in the mail. It's a very powerful concept and really can help engage a lot more donors in your work during this important time. And Diane mentioned the importance of the last 7 days of the year. that time frame between the 26th and the 31st is a major time for charitable donations, and you want to be sure that you're getting your share of that. So the concept of the clock is ticking is another concept that you can tie email messaging around to donors. You can also put a countdown clock on your website. Many organizations report having success, even doing 2 or 3 emails on the 31st to their donors to really engage them in this last chance to make a life-saving gift for the animals in 2020. So I'm going to hand it over to Diane again.
Thank you. So we hope that one or more of these ideas really inspired you all and helps you bring in more funds for the remaining weeks of this year. We wanted to make sure you understand that you don't have to feel badly for asking for support. In fact, in some ways, you're doing people a favor, letting them contribute to a cause that they really care about and feel like they can do something meaningful. I love this particular quote. It says, "Fundraising is the gentle art of teaching the joy of giving." I think it's especially important for those that maybe don't feel it's a natural thing for them to be a fundraiser, to ask for funds. It's not something we need to worry about so much, because we are actually doing people a favor and helping them support a cause that they care about, just like we do. So it's important that you are able to reach out in many different ways to your community and let them support a cause that is meaningful to them. And as I said early on in the presentation, the quote by Richard Avanzino is so appropriate and sums it up. Do good work, tell people about it, and then ask them for help. People are thrilled to be able to help, and especially in these times when they're maybe not able to get out and participate in things as much as they would like to, and maybe don't have a sense of fulfillment of life in general. So you are giving them an opportunity to be fulfilled and to help a cause that we all care about so much. So we are going to pause and address some of the questions that you all provided in our chat session, but I just wanted to say one other thing before we do that. Please feel free to reach out to us directly. We have a lot of samples and examples and templates that we can share with you. We're more than happy to make it easy as possible for you all to implement some of these ideas. So don't hesitate to ask us. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mark, that's going to facilitate the question and answer session.
Okay, so I will jump in with one from the chat window, which is how short should short videos be?
Mark, you may have a comment on that yourself, but I would say, a minute or so would be good. What are your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, I would say that the shorter the better. And in fact, 30 seconds is pretty good. If you're doing a longer one, like the one that was shown during this presentation, that's got sort of a gravitas to it. But I think that, for a lot of people, it's something that sort of starts playing in their feed. And so if you can do it shorter, and especially have subtitles on it, captions, so that people don't have to turn on the audio for their, on their phone or whatever to disturb people around them. That can also be useful. So I would go with that. So another question that came up, not in the chat window, was that what should we, if we do a direct mail piece, what should we put in the envelope, or what should we not put in the envelope?
Yeah, well, that is going to, in some degree, probably be dictated by your budget, because the more stuff you put in the envelope, the more expensive it gets. And nonprofits are eligible for bulk mail, or sometimes you can work through a mail house that has a bulk mail permit. However, you need to mail earlier if you're going to use a bulk rate permit because the mail is slower than if you put a first class stamp on the letters. So keep that in mind. What can be very effective is a short double-sided letter, appeal letter that has photos and a couple of stories of animals. If you do dogs and cats, I think over time you want to balance out the animals. And if you're helping small animals, occasionally you want to be sure they're mentioned in letters too, because some donors have a strong preference. So you don't want to just do dogs or just do cats unless that is your organizational focus. Including a one-page double-sided little newsy newsletter that has very short stories, I think can be effective. I think that the days of the long, glossy 10-page newsletter that's sent through the mail are probably slowing down or passing. A short appeal letter with perhaps a card. You definitely need to include a response card or a response envelope, the combo envelope card that you sometimes see when you get appeal letters. If you're doing a card, you need to include an envelope. It needs to be easy for people. They can put a stamp on themselves. You do not have to do return postage, but it is important to include a way for people to respond. And if you were, say, piggybacking one of the other things we mentioned, like a giving tree or lights of love, you might want to enclose a card about that. But again, it all depends on your budget. Find a printer and layout artist that can work with you to make decisions about what is going to be most cost effective for your organization.
So if you want to send out an appeal letter, how do you get people's addresses if you're mostly dealing with them through email and social media?
Well, to me, it's something you need to work to cultivate and build your mailing list. And it means gathering all the information from people when you have the opportunity to do so. I don't know if Mark or Diane, if you guys have a suggestion for how one might try to backtrack and track people down.
Well, sometimes you can do it online, but I don't know. I think the better way is to be proactive about it, like you said, and if you build it into your culture with your organization, with all of your staff, that wherever you are, that you're capturing all the information. I think there's a lot of missed opportunities out there. I've seen it a lot where people have come to some kind of event, but nobody gathered the names. Or you're having an offsite event, and just being able to always ask for contact information that includes both the physical mail and email, and be sure that that is forwarded to whoever is your central list keeper. I don't know as much about the technical side of tracking it down, but I know there are some programs out there that can help with that.
And you can purchase mailing lists. It's just starts to get expensive. And if you don't have a relationship with people, the return on direct mail is not very high. It takes time. You can do acquisition mailings, but it takes time to build a donor list that way. So if you are capturing the mailing address and email address of everyone that you're interacting with, that's the most cost-effective way to build your donor list.
Yes, and I would add that you could also, make sure that you have it built into the forms that are on your website when you have people submit, donations themselves or other things, that you ask for it, because if people can just not fill in that if they really don't want you to contact them, but most people are willing to put it in there if they support your organization. So let me see, let me look through these other questions. One more question: how can we tell if we're sending too many emails because we're afraid that of having people unsubscribe because we're pestering them too much?
Yeah, I get that. And I'm certainly one of those people who doesn't like to be pestered But I will tell you that a lot of fundraisers will advise you that during those very crucial times, like Giving Tuesday and December 31st, that even a couple of emails a day is not necessarily on that day is not necessarily too much, and leading up to it, an increased frequency of emails. I think making the content of your emails worth reading enhances the open rate. And as Diane said, having them come from a person enhances the open rate of emails. It's quite low in general, but it's still an important way to communicate with people. And I don't know that I have a very specific guideline. I think typically I probably would not try to email people more than once a week, except in these crucial time periods, or if there's a very special situation that you want to share. But in most cases, I would say probably not more than once a week. Mark, I don't know if you have a thought on that.
One thought I would add is that, for this webinar, one of the things was, making sure that people knew about it and could sign up for it. And I personally was a little leery about sending a fresh email about signing up today, this morning, because one had already been sent earlier this week and the week before. But we probably got 20% of the signups that we got happened today from the email, the extra one that I sent this morning, and there were no unsubscribes. And so I think, especially at this time of year, that it doesn't hurt. People are expecting these types of communication, and they are going to miss some of them. But, and so some repetition is not bad, I would say. One thing, I'm looking at the chat window. There's been a few interesting comments there that people have made, and there was one I wanted to share that was from Denise, who said that they built their donor mailing list through their spay neuter transport, where they ask people permission to add them to their mailing list. And so I think there are a number of things like that, where you interact with people, like Diane mentioned, at events, collecting information, and also things like this, vaccination clinics and other places, and just, the events through the community and different places on your website where people are requesting, for instance, if you have a help desk and people ask questions, have them put their address in when they ask the questions. So there are lots of different ways to do that.
Yeah, surprisingly to many people, the people who you help, clinic users of your, help desk or behavioral helpline, those folks can become very valuable supporters if you build that relationship.
Okay, and there's also some comments I'm seeing going by on suggestions for places to capture data. And so Diane had mentioned Excel and Little Green Light, and Lori Parsons, Lori at elmorespca.org, said she is happy to build a Microsoft Access database shell for people. And so that is one. And I would also mention Google Docs is, free software. So even if you haven't sprung for the cheap version, or, the inexpensive version through TechSoup for nonprofits, which can make getting the Microsoft suite very affordable. There are also free spreadsheets out there, such as Google Docs. And so I would consider those. Let's see, maybe we've got time for one more question here. And so let's see. So should line staff and operations managers or directors be involved in fundraising? Why or why not?
I guess it depends on what you mean by involved, but I would think every person in the organization, generally speaking, has some role to play in fundraising. At the very most basic level, any interaction any person has with your organization is going to reflect on the organization. And if people don't have good experiences, they're going to be much less likely to donate. And, again, fundraising is about relationships. So again, the relationship that every person on your staff has with the public, with individuals they encounter or interact with via email, phone, in person, any way at all, is going to either contribute to building positive relationships or possibly contribute to, damaging those potential relationships. So I would say yes. And I think also gathering stories is crucial. You have to know what's going on within the organization, what animals are being helped, in order to have the right stories to put out there. Diane, do you want to add to that? I'm sure you have thoughts.
Gosh, I don't know that I have really much more to add to that, other than it kind of was building on what you said in the beginning, that everybody's a part of it, because everybody is representing the organization, because they're a touch point for the public at some point, almost everybody. And so I think it's one of those things to, I don't want to say train necessarily, but to inform and to include your staff in, so that they're aware of that, and that they're aware of that everything they're doing is impacting the reputation of the organization, which impacts, what people are giving, as well as the staff that can directly contribute where they may not think they can, just by representing and asking for people to contribute. One example that I was thinking of is this was back in the days we were at Nevada Humane Society, and I know that other organizations have done this when they're adopting out animals, that we asked our staff at the front desk to always ask for a donation. And again, it goes back to that that saying of do good things, ask people, share it with people and ask for support or ask for help. And it was amazing how much people would give if they would just ask. Even when we would do, sometimes we had adoptions where it was a pay as you go, or pay whatever you prefer, and you could pay nothing if you wanted to. And people would give more just by asking than they would have otherwise, even if we'd had a regular adoption fee. So again, it's getting everybody involved, and they're representing the organization, and really can make the difference. Even somebody who's, like we had a wonderful person that was our facilities, kind of like a custodial person, and he would go out to make pickups, at Walmart or whatever. And those relationships were critical in order to help us get additional support. So.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think I might add to that is that you want to be sure your entire team is kept up to speed with your fundraising efforts, because people will come in or call up and they'll say, oh, I love the story of JoJo in the newsletter. Or they'll say, I heard you're doing a pet photo contest. And if your staff, who might be an animal caregiver or a vet assistant or an adoption counselor, say, or someone who's out in the community, even your volunteers, people want to feel that they are part of the organization and they are viewed as such by the public. So if the public brings up something that you put out there and your team doesn't even know about it, it's embarrassing for your team. It doesn't show that you all communicate internally. It just isn't as effective as if everyone on your team got to see the appeal letter that went out to the public, or heard about the fact that you're doing a pet photo contest, and they can help promote it to people too that way. But at the very least, they need to be informed about what's going on. So, that internal communication is an important piece of fundraising.
And just to remind you, one more thing is just to celebrate it with them too. So celebrate the successes, because they are part of it. So that even helps them be more motivated to participate in the future, and to be aware of what's going on when they know what a difference it made and what a difference they make as an individual.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay, well, I think we'll wrap things up there. So thank you for the time you took to join us for this webinar today, because we know how busy you are. And so I will send everyone who RSVP'd a link so that you can share this webinar with others. And please know that it is the first in a series of Shelter Success Simplified webinars supported by Petco Foundation and presented by Humane Network. If you'd like to be notified of future webinars, be sure to sign up for the Shelter Success Simplified e-newsletter at the bottom of every page on our website at humanenetwork.org. So thank you for all the work you do helping animals.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.